I think Jazat Saab is facing some internet difficulties, and I think we should move to our next speaker. Uh, the third speaker of this webinar is Dr. Rabia Akhtar. Dr. Akhtar is working as a Director, Center for Security Strategy and Policy Research, and also as a Director, School of Integrated Social Sciences at the University of Lahore. She holds a PhD in Security Studies from Kansas State University. She is the author of the book titled The Blind Eye, U.S. Non-Proliferation Policy Towards Pakistan from Ford to Clinton. Dr. Akhtar is also a member of Pakistan's Prime Minister's Advisory Council on Foreign Affairs. Now I request Dr. Rabia Akhtar to share her thoughts on Indian nuclear weapons modernization, implications for deterrent stability. You have the floor.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to thank Chairman Ambassador Khalid Mahmood, DG Ambassador Azaz Chaudhry, Director ACPC, Mr. Malik Qasim, for inviting me to be a part of this August panel on this important topic when our region is undergoing strategic shifts and is confronted with trilateral complexities emanating from 3 nuclear weapon states bordering each other with territorial disputes. Excellent presentation by AVM Faiz Amir and a lot of ground covered by Air Commodore Ghulam Mujaddid. So I'm conscious of my time and I will be concise and would want us and our audience to consider the following. I am not going to tell you, the military balance overview because you can visit CIPRI's website for that. You can also look at the military balance that IISS releases. What I'm going to be doing today is more conceptual in nature, which should allow us to think more about modernization and deterrent stability. So here is what I propose to the audience, and I hope that you find this thought-provoking. Number one, what is the Indian defense modernization geared towards? Who is India's principal enemy? Is it Pakistan or is it China or is it both as is touted by the two-front war scare? India has spent more than $100 billion on force modernization, updating its outdated war-fighting machinery in the past 7 years. The purchase of 36 Rafale aircraft from France is alone worth US $8.7 billion. And you will see that once purchased, India will use them against Pakistan for deterrence signaling, which is meant actually for China. I have termed this new type of deterrence as surrogate deterrence, but that's another topic for another day. Since direct deterrence is risky, you find a surrogate and Pakistan plays that power for India where China is concerned. India has moved from Sundarji doctrine to Pole Star doctrine in the past 2 decades. The land warfare doctrine of 2018 allows for Indian Army to use IBGs for small-scale incursions below nuclear threshold. Interestingly, post-Doklam, the land warfare doctrine devoted exclusively to the LAC with China notes the need to be prepared for any escalation, with the caveat that deliberate transgressions along the line of actual control will be responded with actions that cause minimal escalation in consonance with existing agreements and protocols. Beyond diplomacy, actions in the domain of minimal escalation will be employed according to this land warfare doctrine. I ask you, why didn't then we see this employment in Galwan? Will we see this if China continues to claim other parts of Indian territory at the line of control? Perhaps. The land warfare doctrine talks about Sino-Pak collusion, something to what AVM Faiz Amir also mentioned, and is the first official Indian doctrine to do so. So India on paper, according to my mind, has a plan, which makes sense. But will its execution be as easy? Galwan tells us that perhaps India still has a very long way to go and might rethink what minimal escalation vis-a-vis China will look like. My second point is about the changing nature of warfare, which is undergoing a paradigm shift towards non-contact and standoff capabilities, autonomous weapon systems, electronic warfare, cyber capabilities that can have a decisive or degrading effect in the battlefield. Interestingly, the Indian land warfare doctrine makes a mention of these disruptive technologies. But again, on paper, it looks brilliant. But will it stand a chance against PLA's warfare capabilities and their integration of disruptive technologies? Those who look at force postures and military modernization patterns of major powers would tell you that China has been increasing the levels of its military modernization, filling the gaps to meet its national security requirements. Is India doing the same? That's the question. My third point is about modernization and deterrent stability. It is important not only for India, but also for Pakistan to deeply study the three warfares concept PLA employs. The concept of public opinion warfare, second, psychological warfare, and legal warfare. The first warfare, media or public opinion warfare, attempts to shape public opinion both domestically and internationally. The second, the psychological warfare, attempts to influence foreign decision makers and how they approach China policy. The third seeks to shape the legal context for Chinese actions, and it builds a legal justification for Beijing's actions using their domestic laws to signal what Chinese intentions actually are. Together, these three warfares constitute a significant formal part of Chinese deterrence strategy. China's multiple adversaries and PLA spends a lot of time and energy managing these adversarial relationships through these three warfares. So for the overall deterrent stability in the region, as I see it, you need to look at two dyads separately. Within the India-China dyad, the equation is different because China does not deal with India as a nuclear weapon state. There is a general strategic anxiety that exists within this dyad, but nuclear weapons do not figure out as prominently as they do in the second dyad between India and Pakistan. Secondly, the dilemma for India is that it cannot have a credible and minimal deterrence posture towards both China and Pakistan. And that's where the overall deterrent stability, to my mind, weakens. What is credible deterrence for Pakistan is not necessarily credible when it comes to China. What is minimally required to deter Pakistan is certainly not what is required to deter China. So I understand this dilemma for India, whereby it needs to maintain two different deterrence doctrines for its two nuclear neighbors, which adds to the fragility of the overall strategic deterrence in our region. And that is also where its no first use doctrine is tied in. NFU is not feasible for India going forward, and you will see India formally adopt a first use doctrine in coming years to justify its evolving deterrence posture vis-a-vis both China and Pakistan. This brings me to my last point. Since India faces this dilemma of dual deterrence doctrines, its force modernization vis-a-vis both China and Pakistan is also different. The planes and the missiles needed to conventionally deter Pakistan are different from those that India needs to deter China. So going forward, here is what I want all of us to think about. Number one, China blinked in Doklam. The 2-month border standoff ended with China abandoning the road buildup and agreed to returning status quo ante in the Tri-Junction area. After what has happened in Galwan, and with the loosening of the alignment between Bhutan and India, will we see a redux of Doklam with China coming back to build the road, and this time India not being welcomed by Bhutan to stop China? Number two, from here onwards, how will India's overall reduced influence in its neighborhood with countries like Bhutan and Nepal and aggressive Chinese postures and land readjustments affect India's deterrence vis-a-vis China? Do nuclear weapons even have a role in this scenario? India cannot use, mind it, the threat of nukes to settle Doklam 2.0 if it happens. It cannot use the threat of nukes to take back Galwan or other areas should China claim them. Number three, so what are we looking at? There is bound to be a strategic rethink in Indian nuclear and security establishment to focus on what leverages it can develop vis-a-vis China that would deter China from further diluting Indian influence in the neighborhood. No amount of military modernization, nuclear or conventional, can add to already existing deterrence equation. So India must think out of the box. The stage, I believe, is set for India. The future of warfare is non-contact war with disruptive technologies at play, having the potential to dilute Indian deterrence and neutralize any advantage force modernization might have or for India or for any state in the future in the region. So states like India and Pakistan must therefore focus on their deterrence doctrines to account for this new reality. So this is how I look at the overall modernization, Indian defense modernization going forward and its relationship with deterrence, stability in our region. And I hope this would provoke some debate and thinking, with the audience. I would like to stop here and would be, looking towards the Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rabia, for sharing a deep insight on how India is modernizing itself to compete for a two-front war with Pakistan and China, and also highlighting important aspects